What's good, fight family? Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're going to be talking about Jiri Procházka moving down to 185 pounds and how he potentially could do in that division. Now, why are we talking about something like this? I'm sure a lot of you are asking. If you haven't seen the headline from like 2 weeks ago, right around the UFC 303 loss that Jiri Procházka took to Alex Pereira, he said on an interview, I don't remember who with, I think it was with Ariel Helwani, that he was planning on moving down to 185 pounds. Anything that guy says he's going to do, I take him at his word. Or if he says he can even do it, I take him at his word. That means he's probably test cut before, or he knows that he's been around that weight before. It's not too hard to get to that weight. Either way, it's a fun idea to just kind of talk about how he'd fit into the middleweight division because, you know, the top like 5 of it is pretty decent. The rest, I feel like middleweight is wide open. I don't think it's stacked at all. I think it's one of the least stacked divisions in the whole sport. So let's talk about it. First up on the chopping block, obviously, we got to talk about how he would fare against the current champion, Dricus du Plessis. And just so you guys know, Jiri Procházka is sitting at, number 1 in the light heavyweight rankings. So he would get an immediate top 5 matchup at middleweight. I'd imagine even maybe a title shot just because of how much buzz is generated around this guy. But him versus Dricus du Plessis, stylistically, how do I think that match goes? I kind of think they're similar in certain aspects. So I don't obviously mean in the way they strike or honestly the way they fight. What I do mean is they both are like tanks. Dricus du Plessis walks through damage, uses his chin and his head and his body as like a shield a lot of the time, and will just try to outgun you, and it works. It hasn't actually failed him yet in the UFC, except for against Sean, but that's a topic for a whole nother video. But that's exactly what Jiri Procházka does. He just really only takes damage with his chin. He uses his chin as like his defense, and then he, you know, eventually will outland or outmuscle most people he fights. I wouldn't really say outmuscle. He just starts to really put the pressure on people that he fights. He puts bombs in their face, and they always start to fold. Unless your name's Alex Pereira, yeah, they usually fold. But how do I see this going? I feel like definitively Jiri Procházka hits much harder than Dricus du Plessis. He just seems to put away people with like real knockout shots. Dricus du Plessis kind of puts him away with like a lot of volume in his heavy strikes. He doesn't usually just catch somebody one and done. So obviously I think when it comes to like pure knockout ability, pure damage on the feet, I think Jiri Procházka takes it. I think Dricus du Plessis might have better cardio, but I don't really have anything to base that on because Jiri Procházka has shown a couple times now, even in the UFC, he's shown once that he has a great gas tank, and he is always looking for a finish. He's always in the fight. That's really hard to find in a lot of fighters, and you find it in both these guys in this matchup, which I find pretty cool. Honestly, I'm trying to think here like what strength Dricus would just definitively have. Maybe the grappling. You know, I think I would probably say he's a better wrestler for sure. I don't know about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but I could see Dricus being a lot better in the grappling department. I don't even think Dricus is faster, though. That's the problem. Like, if you're the smaller guy, usually you have speed, and that'll really help you in these matchups against somebody that is bigger than you, especially if they're coming down from a weight class. But I don't think he'd be faster than Jiri. I think the speed would actually be relatively similar. I'd actually edge out Jiri Procházka if I had to bet money on it. So, honestly, I think just because of this stylistic matchup, I think Jiri Procházka might actually smoke Dricus du Plessis if he was to ever get a potential shot at him. I think it would be a pretty easy fight for him, to be honest with you. I just think Dricus would be outgunned and outsized, which is his strength against most of the middleweight division. That's going to be all for the Dricus fight. Let's go down to the number 1 contender, Sha Strickland. Jiri Procházka versus Sha Strickland. Okay, off rip, Sha Strickland most likely has better cardio due to the pace that he fights at. Sha Strickland has much better striking defense, but he only really will be throwing out that boxing and that teep. And I actually think Jiri Procházka is a style nightmare for Sha Strickland. I think Jiri Procházka would put Sha Strickland away easily in like the first or the second round. And I'm really high on Sha Strickland, so don't take that as, you know, hate or anything towards Sean. Or me underestimating him, because I don't think I am. I think it's just a really bad style matchup. Sean gets countered quite easily by rangy, straight hands, and he's always open to that hook. And Jiri Procházka is really good at that check left hook. He's no Alex Pereira with it, but he still has a hell of a check left hook. Sha Strickland most likely has better grappling. I would edge out Sean in the grappling, but I don't think he would try to use it. I think he would try to stand and bang with Jiri, and I think eventually Jiri would do what he does to most people. I think the pressure would just be too much. Sha Strickland's game is pressure, and I don't foresee Sha Strickland walking down Jiri Procházka simply because Jiri is, coming down from a higher weight class. So I would also take Jiri Procházka in this fight against Sha Strickland. I'm honestly trying to envision a way that Sean could win that fight, but I feel like Jiri would have to be coming in sick or something, honestly. And I don't think I would normally say that for most people that match up with Sean. But yeah, I think that's how I have it. So now I have Jiri Procházka beating the champ and the number 1 contender. Let's move on, see if it's any different with the number 2 contender, Israel Adesanya. Now this one is interesting to me. Just about as interesting as the Dricus one, because with the Dricus one, it's a clash of the same style, or a similar style. With the Israel Adesanya one, it's a clash of similar personalities in the sense that they're both like unique strikers. They're both just unique humans. But Israel Adesanya is a sniper. And I do feel like dealing with somebody like Alex Pereira, showing you can knock somebody out like Alex Pereira, and early at that, it really does make me kind of want to edge out. Pause. Whoa. It makes me edge out. Pause. Fuck. I'm leaning with Israel Adesanya. I'm leaning with Israel Adesanya against Jiri Procházka, because Jiri Procházka's striking defense isn't good enough. And I don't think against somebody like Israel, and obviously not against somebody like Alex, as we've seen, I don't think you can just come in there and win fights with your chin and your heart against people that are snipers with, knockout power. Israel Adesanya doesn't have knockout power the same way that Alex Pereira does. I don't think really anybody on the planet does, besides like Ngannou and maybe a select few. But he does have the precision. He's very tactical. He would know how to set up the knockout blows, especially after watching it happen twice to Jiri and recently. Adesanya would have the speed advantage. I do think if they were trading, obviously Jiri Procházka is going to be landing a lot heavier. I just can't really see him trading on Adesanya too easily. I can foresee him getting in there and landing a couple right hands. I think Izzy's shown that he can take shots like that. But then again, against Sha Strickland, he showed that like if it's really timed perfectly and you don't see it coming, he can't always take them all. This one I'm really close on. I don't think like Adesanya takes it just like a wash. I would say like 6 out of 10 times. So 6 times Adesanya is winning. Jiri is winning 4 of them. That's probably how I'd lean right now. Maybe even 5.5 to 4.5. Like that's how close I think this matchup is. But I do think stylistically, Israel Adesanya just has a lot of tools to knock out somebody that leans heavily on their chin as defense. So yeah, so far I have it 2-1 Jiri Procházka taking on the top 3. And now we have number 3 at middleweight, which is Robert Whittaker. This one I actually think is interesting. I think prior to watching Robert Whittaker lose to Dricus du Plessis the way he did, I most likely would have had Whittaker like 8 times out of 10 against Jiri Procházka. But after I watched him get outgunned and kind of just walked down, I could see it happening again. I mean, Robert Whittaker could really set up some nice shots on the feet and land some big things on Jiri Procházka. I don't think he's nearly as outgunned as I feel like Sha Strickland and Dricus are, but I think I might lean Jiri Procházka the same way that I had Adesanya 6-4, like 5.5 to 4.5. I think I'm leaning the same way for Jiri Procházka against Robert Whittaker. I do think Robert Whittaker can get it done a couple of times if they matched up over and over and over. But I think Jiri Procházka just does a little bit too much damage, and he's a little bit too big of a guy. Robert's going to have the speed advantage, the footwork advantage, potentially the cardio advantage. I probably would lean Robert with the cardio, definitely the wrestling. I don't know about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but most likely, like he has a lot of these strengths. It's just, I think he would get chinned bad. I could also foresee him, landing like a leap Superman punch, something along those lines, into like a leaping hook or something like that, into a head kick. Like he does crazy stuff like that. And with Jiri, you really could catch him with something like that big. I just don't know if he'd be able to do enough damage, being that he is undersized and not necessarily a knockout artist. So I would be leaning Jiri Procházka against the number 3 ranked at middleweight. Now we have number 4, Nasruddin Imavov. I mean, bro, this is crazy that he's even at number 4. I feel like him and Jared Cannonier should rematch, but it probably won't happen. I think I saw already that Nasruddin Imavov was being matched up with Brendan Allen, so yeah, it looks like Jared's not getting his rematch. He's probably going to have to take on fucking, I don't even know, like Roman Dolidze or something dumb. But Nasruddin Imavov, yeah, I think Jiri Procházka smokes Nasruddin Imavov. Nasruddin could do a couple things maybe in the first round, especially if he's really utilizing that leg kick and staying at range. But you can't stay at range for too long with a bigger guy. Yeah, hands down, I've got Jiri Procházka. I don't even think there's too much to say about this. Nasruddin just doesn't have a way to change the tempo of the fight. Even in ways that I think Dricus, Sean, Israel, Rob, I think all of them could find ways to change the tempo a little bit. I don't think Nasruddin Imavov could do enough against Jiri. I think Jiri probably puts him out in like 2 rounds, maybe even in 1. And then the last guy I'm going to talk about in this video, the number 5 ranked, Jared Cannonier. How would Jared Cannonier do against Jiri Procházka? This is actually an interesting one. Jared Cannonier matches up well against just a lot of people because he's sneaky technical on the feet with his striking and with his footwork especially. He has ridiculous power. His ground and pound is S tier. He has maybe the best ground and pound I've ever seen in the sport. He gets so much leverage into those strikes on the ground and torque. Yeah, I have a lot of good things to say about Jared. The outlier is that he's 40 years old now. And he doesn't fight too often, which kind of makes me a little bit nervous. Like maybe he deals with injuries that he doesn't speak about. I don't know. The guy is a G and he's a unique character. We don't have too many people like him in this sport. And I think it's a shame he doesn't get more recognition because he is a dog and he hasn't lost too many fights in the UFC point blank period. I do think he'd be outgunned here. I could give him maybe 2 wins because he has heavy leg kicks. And I could see him getting that set up against Jiri really quickly. You know, maybe I'd give him 3 wins. I think I'd go Jiri Procházka winning 7 out of 10 times. I think the leg kicks are the best part of Jared Cannonier's game against somebody like Jiri and his left hook. But I think Jiri would be smart enough to be checking those. He's not going to have to worry about the head kick threat as much as he does against somebody like Pereira or Adesanya or Whittaker. He really just has to worry about those hands and the leg kicks. And I don't think that's too much to deal with. Jared might try to mix in grappling, but I think he would find that as strong as he is, it's going to be a hard one to just out-muscle Jiri Procházka. I do think Jared Cannonier is stronger. Let me make that clear. He's probably the strongest middleweight fighter. But I do think Jiri Procházka would be just enough to defend the grappling, just strong enough, just technical enough, and he would probably knock out Jared Cannonier, I'd say in like the 3rd round. Sounds about right to me. And yeah, I mean, that is all of the top 5 and the champion. So that's basically 6 fighters that I think majority of them, yeah, nobody really has a chance against Jiri Procházka. So honestly, Jiri, I think it's a good move to go down to 185 if you really think that your chin can handle it. If you really can, you know, make that weight cut and still be fighting at an optimal, fighting optimally, then solid, bro. Let's do it. I'm down to see it. Let me know what you guys think down below. That's going to be all for me today. Yeah, enough with the yap sesh. I'll catch y'all.